are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Way to Wow shows for Labor Day. It's Monday, September 1st, and this is the beginning of the fall holiday season, basically. So although summer isn't officially over for about another 3 weeks, Labor Day it used to mean things like going back to school, although I think most schools have been in session for already at least a week or two. But it kind of kicks off the fall. This is my favorite time of year. And although we're having our hottest week so far of the summer this week here in Los Angeles, hopefully the weather's going to cool down as we head into late September and October. And then we'll have nice, cool weather for Halloween and Thanksgiving, and then on into the Christmas holiday season and the new year. So last year, when I talked about Labor Day, I talked about the history of the holiday. And this year, I'd like to talk about why it's meaningful to celebrate Labor Day in a country that has a capitalist free market economy, or not purely so, of course. So there used to be a time when Americans, or a lot of Americans, were opposed to Labor Day because it smacked of communism. So May Day historically is Labor Day in countries like the Soviet Union and such. But I think that there are many good reasons here in the United States for us to take a day to honor labor, especially given some of the trends in our society where it seems younger people especially are struggling to find their place in society, to establish productive, meaningful lives. And so I came up with 5 ideas as to why Labor Day remains important in America. So I thought I'd share those with you. And then, as is my custom, I'm going to read a speech. In this case, it's a speech by Ronald Reagan that he gave for Labor Day in 1981 on September 4th. And Reagan, Ronald Reagan, who was known as the great communicator, I think, as always, has some thoughts that are worth hearing on this day as we attempt to make Labor Day not just a day off and a time for barbecues and gathering with family and friends, but a meaningful day in the calendar. And by the way, I hope you all put your flags out for Labor Day. I put mine out this morning a little after 7 a.m. So I think the first and perhaps the most important reason to celebrate Labor Day is it celebrates the dignity of work. And we tend to think of labor as manual labor, or maybe factory labor, things like mining, or harvesting timber, things like that. But of course, in contemporary America, only a small percentage of people are engaged in those types of jobs. So most of us are involved in service activities. I know my business as an independent trustee and probate administrator, I perform services, and as do professionals at large, and even people who work from a company that at least ostensibly, has a large manufacturing component to it. I'm thinking of a company, for example, like Apple. So Apple makes computers and iPhones and iPads and earbuds. So they manufacture all of these, although I don't think they manufacture any of them here in the United States. But the vast majority of people who work for Apple do not engage in the actual manufacturing of those products. That's setting aside that the manufacturing is, generally speaking, done by contractors. I think even if those contract employees were added into the mix, my guess is that a company like Apple still would be a majority of people not directly involved in the manufacturing process. Even for say an automobile manufacturer like Ford, for example, my guess is that maybe only half of Ford's employees are engaged in the manufacturing process itself. Nonetheless, there is tremendous dignity for the human spirit in engaging in work, at work that is honest, that is productive, meaning adding value to our society. Now, there's no honor in being a drug dealer. Drug dealers, they may work hard. I don't know. I've never been one, never known any, at least to the best of my knowledge. But they are parasites on our society, and they make their wealth by flaunting the law. So I would argue that people involved in illegal activity, no matter how hard they work at it, are not part of the celebration of the dignity of labor, because much of their activity is undermining the value that we as individuals and as a society gain from engaging in honest, productive labor. And so, whether we do manual work, whether we engage in professional services, or whether we're involved in administrative tasks at a company, all of those are, or whether we're involved in things like teaching or law enforcement, fighting fires, all of those add to our society, and they give a person a basis on which to build his self-esteem. And so that is the power of the dignity of work. And indeed, I would hope that in today's day and age, that we would recognize that every job contributes to society's functioning and prosperity. Whether it's the fellow on the garbage truck picking up, our refuse, whether it's the crossing guards that are protecting our children when they're going to and coming to and going home from school. I know when I'm out walking, oftentimes I encounter the security guards. I always make it a point to greet them and thank them. What they do is important, and it is dignified, important work. Would that every person driving paid attention, I guess we wouldn't need crossing guards, but that is not the society in which we live. Maybe when all vehicles are Waymos and they all scrupulously obey the traffic laws, we won't need crossing guards. But until then, uh, every job contributes to society's functioning and prosperity. And it also Labor Day affirms the idea that work provides purpose and meaning beyond just earning an income. So people sometimes make jokes, because when you ask someone, or when you're seeking to find out who someone is in the United States, or who an American is, they will connect their identity to what they do. I'm a lawyer. I'm a trust and probate administrator. I'm a teacher. I'm a doctor. I build cars. I'm a factory worker. Right. Whereas in Europe, people don't tend to identify themselves by their work. And We can argue the merits of each system, but the fact that we in America get a good portion of our identity from our work, I think demonstrates the importance of work in how we see ourselves as individuals and as a society. America has always attracted people who are ambitious, innovative, want to work hard, and so it's part of our national gestalt, and Labor Day, I think, celebrates that as well. And finally, it acknowledges the skill, the dedication, the effort required in all occupations. I'll go back to my uh, um, crossing guards. Uh, I have personally seen cars essentially attempt to run them down. Okay, it happened just last week. One of the crossing guards I see on a regular basis, the car just it ran through the stop sign and came up right up to him. And to his credit, he stood his ground and the car stopped. Thank goodness, thank God, right? But uh, you know, there is a tremendous amount of dedication, or that was a tremendous dedication on his part, because there were people behind him who were crossing, me among them, right? And as I got to the other side, I turned to him. I said, these drivers are crazy. He said, yeah. I said, this happens pretty frequently. I said, I was run down by a car not too far from here. And we talked about that for a minute or two. So I think it's important for us as a society to acknowledge the skill, dedication, and effort required in all occupations as a way to encourage people to acquire the skills, to be dedicated, to put in the effort of labor. So that's number one. Number two, Labor Day embodies America's opportunity mindset and its mobility. So there has been the idea really since the founding, even before the founding of the United States of America, that work can lead to personal advancement. And indeed, that is central to the idea of the American dream. It's a shame that we see large groups of people now challenging that, claiming it doesn't exist, it never existed, and that America is not a land of opportunity. This used to be something that we as Americans broadly agreed on, and the fact that we don't now, or that at least a significant portion of people in America don't agree with that, I think is a tremendous shame, because it is the fact that in America, if someone works hard, they can advance themselves, right? If someone works hard, are they going to become wealthy as an Elon Musk? No, probably not. I don't think that the ability to become the richest man in the world is essential to the value of the American dream, where hard work allows for social mobility. Uh, and the fact is, I don't think that the goodness of the American dream necessitates that the first generation be able to attain the ultimate levels of society. It used to be understood that the goal was for our children to have better and more opportunity than we have. Now it seems to be that everybody should have to, in order for the American dream to be valid, everybody has to have the opportunity to hit a home run their first time up to bat. And again, I think that's a shame. There are generational covenants that exist, and in order for them to be truly beneficial, they have to bind each succeeding generation. If the promise of America is someone born today who, for whatever reason, uh, you know, isn't in the upper strata of society, either academically or economically or etc., is entitled to attain that within their lifetime, there is no reason for that person to build a society where there is greater opportunity for his children. Because if everybody's entitled to the ultimate advancement, well, then everybody's entitled to that. But it's not true. The fact of the matter is, uh, people in this country, either native or coming to this country from another place, have differing levels of education. They have differing skill levels. They have different capacities to work. And so our job is to do the best we can with the gifts that God has given us, in the hopes that our children will be able to go beyond our achievements. That is the promise of the American dream. And within that, then we can celebrate stories of individuals who have improved their circumstances, whether it's someone like Booker T. Washington, who grew up a slave and eventually founded the Tuskegee Institute, whether it's Frederick Douglass, who also was born a slave and became the counselor to presidents, including Abraham Lincoln. Um, Whether it's, my grandfather, who came to this country poor from the Pale of Settlement, Western Russia, and started out with his brothers pushing a junk cart through the streets of, I think it was some city back east, eventually became one of the leading citizens of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Okay, so we can celebrate individual stories within our families, and we can celebrate stories of great people, like the two I mentioned, Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. And Labor Day is a time to think about those stories, both the personal ones and the societal ones. Next, and included within this embodiment in America of opportunity and mobility, is the idea that our national ideal really says that everyone should have the opportunity to succeed, right? And that's the key word, the opportunity to succeed, right? Not all of us are going to work as hard. My friend Bill and I talk from time to time about people who have greater financial success than we do, and we point out that we are unwilling to make the sacrifices that these people have made, and that what we value is different, and so it leads us to a different level of success, and America affords us that opportunity as well. And finally, it honors this idea of the American dream, the pursuit of better lives for our families and future generations. So Labor Day embodies, again, American opportunity and mobility, and it's an important part of the American dream. Next, it commemorates the pursuit of better working conditions. Now, of course, this is part of the history of Labor Day, and it's absolutely valid. So labor conditions, especially in factories, were in many cases horrible, starting at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and then moving into the era of the early 20th century, where the working poor oftentimes worked 6.5 days a week, and if they got sick, they were fired. They worked in dangerous conditions where they could be killed. There's the young women who would work in garment factories, and they would be locked inside to make sure that they didn't leave, and they worked the whole time, and then the building caught on fire, and many of these young women were burned to death. Those are horrible circumstances that the labor movement and the uh, as distinguished from the progressivist movement today, the late 19th century and early 20th century progressivist movement that sought improvement of working conditions. These are all important things for us to remember. So the historical struggle for reasonable hours and wages, for safe workplaces and humane treatment. It's interesting to note that my favorite home furnishings store here in Los Angeles, it was opened originally. It was called HD Buttercup. It's housed in the historic Helms Bakery building. It was bought out by a company called Cocoa Republic, an Australian company that really did not understand the American home furnishings market. And so I found out 3 weeks ago now, I guess it is, that the company is going out of business, and this store that I've been shopping at for almost since I think it opened 8 or 9 years is going to close. All the employees are going to lose their jobs. They're being given no severance pay. They're being given no assistance in finding new jobs, nothing. Now, by the standards of 100 years ago, well, no big deal. But of course, by the standards of today, it's pretty surprising. Typically, especially when you're talking about a multinational, an internationally located company, they provide those kinds of benefits to their employees. So it's disturbing that this company is not. I've had conversations with a couple of people I know at Cocoa Republic, one of whom I've known for, again, almost I think the entire time I've been shopping there. So as you know, I'm not a fan of government regulation and government imposition on businesses. Nonetheless, it's disappointing that the lessons of the betterment of working conditions are evidently lost on this company. Um, eh, you know, for most of the people there, they are not going to be able to find work in that industry, in the home furnishings industry, that will afford them the opportunity to be as economically successful as they have been at HD Buttercup and its successor. And that's a shame. So it's important that we remember the historic struggles that labor faced and the progress that we've made. And I think it's also um, so along with that, and especially today, I think it's important too that we keep in mind that there is an ongoing effort to balance the need of workers with the needs of businesses. So when we talk about things like minimum wage laws and such. So, one of the things that's happened here in California is a lot of fast food restaurants have closed locations because the cost structure of such a restaurant is very tight in terms of its income expenses and therefore its profitability. And so, when minimum wage is increased to a level that's incompatible with those businesses being able to operate successfully. So now we have a situation where all those people lose their jobs because the company cannot operate, profitably. And so I think Labor Day needs to also keep in mind that there is hopefully a symbiotic relationship between businesses and labor, and that in order for our economy to thrive, that the needs of both need to be taken into account, and there's a balancing that is constantly having to be examined. Okay, next, it showcases American economic achievement. So the fact of the matter is, workers of all stripes, the way I was talking about at the beginning of the show, not just sort of um, laborers of that sort, but professionals, administrative people. So together we built this country. We built the largest, most successful, most dynamic economy in the history of the world. So I was listening to a podcast last week, and it was focused on China's economy. And the person being interviewed is an expert on China from China's perspective. And he gave many, many examples of how China excels in engineering and science and these areas that historically America has been dominant, in which America has been dominant. And the podcast host kept saying, and I think rightly so, well, yes, but China didn't come up with the ideas. They re-engineered an idea that they got from somewhere else. So China does have world-class engineers and scientists, but they do not engage in the kind of innovation in which America engages, in which companies, and of course, it's not the company per se that engages in innovation. It's all of the people who work for the companies who are innovating, right? Companies don't innovate, people do. And so I think Labor Day should be a time when we recognize this aspect of the dynamism of the American economy, greater than any economy in the world in that respect too. Not even Europe keeps pace with the innovation in which America engages. No economy does. America is the innovation engine for the world, and just like we should honor uh, the skills and knowledge and effort in which labor engages on this day, in order to encourage people to continue to improve themselves and to engage in work. So too, we should honor the innovation that has been central to American achievement, so that people will feel encouraged to continue to engage in that innovation. So Labor Day is a time to showcase American economic achievement, and in particular how both um, um, well, in particular how individuals within companies across the spectrum of jobs have engaged in that innovation that has kept our economy the strongest in the world. And then finally, I think Labor Day should be a time when communities unite around shared values. And this is kind of coming back to where I started. It is a shame that there is a seemingly growing part of people in our society who don't seem to see the value in labor, the value in work, who denigrate our country as a land of opportunity. And by contrast, I think it would be much better, much healthier for us as individual citizens and as a society to unite around the belief in the importance of meaningful work and to celebrate the contributions of workers of all stripes in building strong and thriving communities, and to take a moment to appreciate what we accomplish together as a society when we work together. So those are why I think that Labor Day remains relevant in contemporary times, and some thoughts that maybe you'll share one or two of them with your friends and family later today, at your barbecues or whatever social events in which you may be engaging to mark this day. So now I'm going to read President Ronald Reagan's message on the observance of Labor Day that he gave on September 4th, 1981, and share with you President Reagan's thoughts on this day. Samuel Gompers, one of the first labor leaders in this country, said that Labor Day was a time to pledge ourselves to an even greater effort in the coming year. Samuel Gompers knew that the key to a prosperous future is to have faith in it, and that's why for him, Labor Day stood for a celebration of tomorrow's promise and possibilities. Today, as we set our minds to a new season of work, we begin what I hope will be a new age of the American worker, an age in which all of us, again, are free to prosper. Together, we've swept away many government-created obstacles to our prosperity. In our fight against inflation and high interest rates, we enacted the largest budget cuts ever considered by the Congress. We produced the first real tax cut for working men and women in nearly 20 years. We slowed the pace of federal rulemaking. We saw to it our money supply followed a pattern of slow, stable growth. These dramatic changes in economic policy, the tax and budget legislation I signed a few weeks ago, are the dynamic result of millions of individuals coming together, committed to preserving a society where we can each seek our own goals, assured of the freedom to climb as high as our own drive, ambition, and talent can take us. Let me make our goal in this program very clear. Jobs, 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 and more jobs. I see the creation of 3 million more jobs by 1986, in addition to the 10 million already expected. I see an era in which wage earners will be taking home more money in real dollars, and an era in which fewer of us will be looking for work. Our policy has been and will continue to be what is good for the American worker is good for America. We built this great nation, but built it to surpass the highest standards ever imagined through the hard work of our people. I would match the American worker against any in the world. The people whose labor fuels our industry and economy are among the most productive anywhere. But too many Americans don't have a job, and too many who do don't have the tools they need to compete. Past stagnated policies have made it too difficult to modernize and too risky to expand. Our people, our workers, have cried out for change, and in the last 7 months have achieved an historic reversal of the failed policies of an era gone by. We returned to the principles that made us great. Legislation now in effect has dawned a new age for American workers, an age in which once again we are free to achieve all that we can. To cite one example, the recent legislation passed by the Congress as part of our economic recovery plan makes it possible for American workers currently participating in company pension plans to expand this coverage with their own individual retirement plans. This is only one of many new, exciting possibilities opened for American workers. All of us must take advantage of the incentives for savings, investment, and hard work that have been restored. I urge American workers who traditionally saved to make their families secure to do so again. I urge American investors who traditionally took risks to make a profit to do so again. I urge American workers to save and invest because I believe that when our economic program takes full effect, Americans again will be rewarded for working extra hours or assuming more responsibility. In a few short months, we've accomplished much, but merely signing legislation is not going to bring about an instant cure. We're only beginning a recovery that will take many long months. We're only beginning to emerge from an economic crisis still gripping the rest of the world. In Poland, where the grocery shelves are bare, The state ideology dictates more rationing of scarcity while workers take to the streets in protest over these restrictions. It is a stifled economy. A government official there said the crisis of depression is deepening in Poland, and they still do not have a way out. Well, as President Eisenhower told us once, a crisis can be deadly when inert men are smothered in despair. But a crisis can be the sharpest goad to our creative energies, particularly when we recognize it as a challenge and move to meet it in faith, in thought, and in courage. We must act today in the name of generations still to come. As we work to solve our economic problems, let us tap that well of human spirit. We'll find more than strength of numbers and strength of resources. We'll find strength of individual determination. We will find the strength of mutual trust. For too many years now, we've trusted numbers and computers. We've trusted balance sheets, organizational charts, policies, and system. We've placed trust in rules, regulations, and government dictates. Well, I think it's about time that we placed trust in ourselves and in each other. I am confident in our ability to work together to meet and surmount our problems and accomplish the goals we all seek. Now, I know that we can't make things right overnight, but we will make them right. Our destiny is not our fate, it is our choice. I ask all Americans in these first crucial months of recovery to join me with confidence as we strike out on this new path to prosperity. And I would echo President Reagan's request. Let's dedicate ourselves to pursuing the hard work of growing our country, of setting things to right. I'll maybe go just a teeny bit political here for a moment. Protests are not going to do it. Each of us needs to work to build this country. We need to work so that we can work together with other people, so that we can build a business, hire our fellow Americans, so that we can gain the wealth that will allow us to reinvest in our economy, to build newer businesses, ones that we can't even imagine right now. If we do that, if all of us dedicate ourselves to the hard work, we will be unstoppable. And we will, for succeeding generations, make good on the legacy that our forebears gave to us, to make the opportunity for each generation greater than that which we had ourselves. So I wish you a happy and a meaningful Labor Day, and I hope you will enjoy it with family and friends. Thanks so much for watching this special edition of the Way to Wow shows, and I look forward to seeing you again later this week. Marie, darling, you are my belle. Courage at all times, my friends.